Welcome to the Man Badger Fan Podcast. This is episode 2. So happy you're here with us. I'm here with Chris Smith. I'm P. Artie Schultz, or as otherwise known as Party Schultz. Used to make PowerPoints for my students. Well, I still do, but labeled it P. Artie Schultz, created by. And they started calling me Party, which was kind of awesome, actually.
Makes way more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it comes from, right? How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. It's nice to go watch the Badgers at the Kohl Center last night. A little late game, 8 p.m. game here.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit of a grind getting through this week here.
Yeah, it was hopping last night. It just looked like an awesome game to be at with how the Badgers played.
Yeah, it was fun. Crowd surprisingly like 90% full for an 8 p.m. Tuesday night game against a bad team. So people are loving the Badgers right now.
Yeah. I just want to talk about your family life, right? You have 2 kids. I have 4 kids. Right now it's just me with the 4, which is kind of in its own adventure. But I want you to tell the audience. So Chris and Heather don't really cook. They don't cook regular food. I mean, they microwave stuff or, Can you just explain how you make this work with 2 kids and what your meals kind of on an average week look like? If you're willing to kind of divulge.
Meals in the Smith household are pretty consistent. Let's use the word. A lot of your classics, your mac and cheeses, your chicken nuggets, pizza. I mean, a lot of your go for it.
So are you you're feeding your kids food and then are you doing your own thing? Or are you guys all eating the same food together?
No, we're all doing our own thing. It's weird. As I get older, I realize it's weird because I didn't grow up in that way, and I don't think Heather did either. It was all family dinners. But no, we just kind of all do our own thing. It's rare that we're all eating the same thing.
Is it just you don't like to cook, both of you?
I don't know if it's that. We just all eat at different times too. I'm an early eater. When I get home from work, I eat right away. Heather eats a little later. The kids, you just never know when the kids are hungry. I don't know what it is.
You're not doing a schedule with them though. You're not saying because
there's not a
4:30 to 6 is when you're eating. It could kind of be any time.
Right. Yeah.
Man, fascinating. You live a fascinating life. It is kind of wild.
It might change at some point. We'll hone in.
I don't know what it is, but I just love, because I grew up the home cooked food too, and so I feel like when I'm doing these easy meals right in a row, it just doesn't feel as good. But I also it takes a lot of time to cook, and then I have to clean all the stuff. So I do get it. There is a convenience factor. All right, well, we can move on. I still think about that. Not monthly, not just periodically. I'm like, man, how do you do that?
It's the cereal. It's the cereal.
Oh, dude. He really does have the best cereal collection. And it's kind of a collection because it's you have the airtight containers and you have all the classics.
It stays fresh forever in those things. I just want to name that. It really does last a long time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we don't have Frem on tonight. Last night we were texting during the game and Frem was starting to comment on the game, right? It's on Peacock, so you got to, go out of your way to look for it. It's Wisconsin was just playing Washington, not a big game. But, it seemed like Frem was getting into it. So it feels like Frem is becoming a Wisconsin Badgers basketball fan. Chris, your thoughts?
I think we're transforming him. He does watch it more because of us. I think we need to take credit for that. And it's the time of year where even the casual fan is all in. That's why I love this time of year because people are jumping on the bandwagon. The NFL's over. So welcome aboard, Frem. Glad to have you, and go Bucky.
We'll have you on the pod soon. Probably next episode. We got to make sure that you're still watching though. Is this just a one-hit wonder? I don't think so. But, still got to look out for it. And maybe the temperature for him is just rising. He feels like, oh, I gotta figure this out so I can like get to the spot that Chris and Party Schultz are at. And that brings us to the thermostat tyrant. Tonight we bow to you, Mr. Thermostat Tyrant. Some men fight wars, but you fight needless temperature adjustments. You have declared 72 degrees the Holy Land, and by God, it shall not change. When someone dares to touch that sacred dial, you appear out of nowhere, ready to restore order and deliver a speech about the energy bill. Your thermostat policy is stricter than airport security. Friends? Family? No one is above the law. And if someone nudges it up 2 degrees, that is treason in your eyes. Cold? Put on a sweater. Hot? Go outside. This house is not a democracy. It's a climate controlled dictatorship, and you are the ruler, Mr. Thermostat Tyrant, because comfort is non negotiable.
It's a real thing as you get older.
Oh, my dad. He is a tyrant. So I'll go
Mark.
home. I'll go home. Yeah, Mark. Did both of our weddings. Great guy. Yeah, they don't like the AC. They don't like the money thing. I think it's the money. I really think it's just that because he'll have it like 74, 75. You're like, dude,
Dang,
it's hot. This is hot,
that's hot.
But they don't turn it down. In fact, during the summer they'll open windows, but it's like humid. You get this. It's just
Yeah,
humid.
right.
It's not actually that comfortable. So, anyway, well, let's get to the game. Wisconsin wins 88-62. Washington at home. Washington's coach is Danny Sprinkle, which I didn't realize either until you said that. So eventually, I think they'll be good. Actually, that guy comes from Utah State, and he was a pretty good coach there. Generally, what's your analysis of the game? What really stood out to you as you watched?
It was a get right game, and going in, I didn't really know coming off of that Oregon game like how we would look. And I think we did start a little slow. I mean, just for a few minutes, but you could tell after those first few minutes that we started to really lock in. What I really liked that I saw is Washington took a play out of Oregon's playbook and pressured us pretty high, and we were moving the ball a lot better. Our guys off the ball were moving, trying to get open and like in different spots. We cut down on our turnovers. We had more assists. We were really active on the boards, which is a trend that I'm starting to notice lately. Is us on the boards, we're pretty strong. But what I liked is that we were attacking the basket. We did shoot a lot of threes again. I think we shot 30. Um,
Yeah,
so like that's fine. That's who we are. But we were so efficient from two, which it like on our streak that we've been on, like that's been our biggest thing is our efficiency inside the arc. Um, and obviously we'll talk about John Blackwell, but his ability to attack the paint. We just looked active, and it was nice. I guess my biggest takeaway was like I wanted to see us go deeper on the bench, and by default, Max Klesmit got hurt. He'll shut down for the second half, so we had to go a little bit deeper, playing our 9 guys. And truthfully, our bench looked really good last night, which is a big sign for the weeks ahead. So I think there's a lot of good things that happened. Like I said, it was a get right game, and yeah, like our 6, 7, 8, 9 guys probably played better than a lot of our starters did. So a lot of good things from last night. How about you?
yeah. You talk about the efficiency. There were 23 of 34 from two. I mean, that is just that's just such a good that's such a good shooting percentage, right? Um, Yeah, I think to see guys like Amos and Jack Janicki off the bench, Kamari McGee, it felt like Blackwell, right, just went off this first half. Second half starts, right, and he actually doesn't, kind of start on that same note. And you see Kamari McGee, I think, play almost 6 straight minutes, 5 or 6 straight minutes, and he is just going hard the entire time, the entire time. Um, and I thought that was what was so different in this game. They just never took their foot off the gas pedal. They almost like learned from that Oregon game. Like we cannot just kind of like, if we have a 15 point lead, we actually just can't sit, right? We can't waste time and try to like find that shot in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock. That's classic Badger basketball, right? We've seen that for years. Um, Got to keep the gas pedal on. And honestly, for March, that could make a huge difference, right? This kind of game. But man, I think this is the best I've ever seen Jack Janicki play in general. And he was flying. I just didn't realize his athleticism.
Yeah.
He is flying up for rebounds in particular. Um, but yeah, I actually just thought overall the ball movement's so good. Carter Gilmore can pass the ball, man.
Yeah.
I
Sure can.
I I mean, to see him transform the way he has, it's just crazy. I mean, Tanji wasn't even that great. I think he was 1 for 6 from three. He actually had a down game by his standards. But yeah, I just think we're so deep, and even with Klesman out, it almost doesn't affect us because we are so deep. And I think, if anything, we're probably more athletic without Klesman in. And I think at times that showed. Yeah, just some based on who was out there.
Yeah, I think losing Klesmet was the best thing that could have happened last night. I mean, I hope he's fine and can come back and be healthy. I guess that's number one. But like you said, Janicki is starting to really play well this last probably, I don't know, 6, 7 games. And I think I texted you or somebody last night. I think he's going to start on this team next year. I think he's that good. And like you said, his passing and cutting is next level. Like his just court awareness is top notch. Reminds me of like a Josh Gosser type player, just in terms of like his efficiency on both ends of the court. So there's a lot of good things to take from. And I called out Amos on our last podcast, and I loved what I saw from him last night. He was confident shooting the ball. He was locked in a little better defensively. So like those are the guys you're going to need to step up in March. And so for them to get some confidence here, I think could be pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like we were a deep team, but I think we just saw that full bore, right? We saw like what the bench could actually do. Um, and man, that's just exciting for March because there's going to be some players that are off in a game. So how does the bench pick up that offense, or how does the bench pick up that defense when we need to do that? Was there a play of the game in your mind, or yeah, maybe just yeah, what was the play of the game for you?
Yeah, I just want to before we talk about play. So we do this segment here. We do play, player, and turning point. This is a shout out to former Badger analyst. That was wrong. Phil Dawson, and I don't know, Phil, if you remember Phil Dawson.
I
He was
I didn't
awesome.
listen
He
to
was
that
like
much Badger radio, so
Gosh, he was like the biggest Badger homer, and he was awesome and funny. And then something weird happened where he got kicked out. There was something really, I don't know, it was weird. But he always did a segment after the games called Play, Player, Turning Point. So we do that because of Phil Dawson, the legend.
thank you, Phil.
My play of the game, I don't remember exactly when it was in the game. I was trying to find it on my game log. But there was a play where Kamari McGee kind of stole the ball. Um, but he couldn't secure it. And he was just like him and the Washington guy were just running for the ball, and he just dove at it, um, got it, tipped it, it went off the Washington guy. We got the ball, but that amped up the entire bench, the crowd. It was just like that was Kamari McGee in a nutshell, just his hustle and his tenacity. And so that play to me was just it was awesome, and I love that Wisconsin fans like that's the stuff we get excited about. It's like
Mhm.
charges, great defensive efforts, like good passing. Like we just love like fundamental basketball. And I just appreciate that so much.
Yeah, man, Bo Ryan. It was just always fundamental basketball, right? Yeah, and I don't think I've seen that where like the ball's rolling down the court and you have two guys who are in essence neck and neck going for this ball at the same speed.
Right.
Usually somebody gets leverage. At it was literally neck and neck. It was a cool play. I think for me, I don't remember which three this was for Xavier Amos, but he's in essence 25 feet. He gets it, and you think, okay, he's going to pass it, but he just goes into his shooting motion right away. And he's not, he's pretty far off the 3 point line. The defender isn't that far away from him, but just the confidence. And I think, yeah, you were a little bit more down on him last game. I saw, I think, some potential. I was like, I think he could, you know, get those minutes and maybe make a difference. And you said, yeah, he's probably going to get minutes in this game. And man, did he! And he took a full advantage. And if he's hitting, I mean, he's not going to hit 4 for 5 from three every night, But even if he can hit 2 a night, 2 for 5, 2 for 4, uh, that is going to help our team. It's just those little things, or those little things from those kinds of players
Right.
that can make such a difference.
Yeah, and I'll just say, like, I fully believe that Xavier Amos could be a not a star, but a really, really good player for the Badgers. It just felt like he needed to do something soon for it to happen, like make an impact this year. And I hope this is sort of that launching pad of him. Like, he was taking threes last night with zero hesitation.
Right.
That's a really good sign. So if he can carry that over, like, I mean, you could see it. His ceiling is really high.
What is like a comp for you past Badger teams? I'm trying to think of who he like compares to, and I feel like there's a player on the tip
Gosh,
of my tongue, but I can't think of the guy.
I don't know. The way he shoots his three makes it hard for me to comp him. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like he could be like a Marcus Landry type player.
Yes. Gosh, that is exactly. Yeah, I knew there was some kind of power forward who was like a
Yeah,
very similar build and kind of similar style.
right.
That is, he is kind of a Marcus Landry 2.0. Yeah. All right. Well, who
Good
for
call.
you? Yeah, for real. I was just thinking about that last night. I was like, who does this guy remind me of? Who is your player of the game?
So since you're letting me go first, I'll take John Blackwell. He needed a game like this. He has been struggling, and I don't know if like he's been sick or hurt, but like you could just tell like something's been bothering him uh, down like these last 4 or 5 games. But just the way he was attacking the lane and finishing was huge, and he got his first ever double double last night. I guess I
Mhm.
wouldn't have guessed that because he's so aggressive on the boards. But getting 24 and 10 is pretty ridiculous. Um, and so like him getting confidence, I mean, I think we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I think when John Blackwell is playing at his A game, I think he's better than John Tanji. Uh, we just haven't we've just seen it in really short spurts this year. So that if that's a sign of things to come, that could be one of the most exciting things that came out of last night's game for me. So I'm going John Blackwell. That was a big game for him.
Yeah, and I don't. We talked about the beginning of the year. Like, is he going to make that NBA jump? Because he looked so dominant at the beginning of the year. Kind of slowed down. I think he is going to come back at least another year, right? Hopefully with NIL that works out, right? That's always up in the air. It feels like, but
Yeah, and and I'll say like, oh, sorry, I mean to cut you off, but that shows a lot about his maturity too, because he was getting kind of called out by not by like media, but by fans. Like you could tell, like who is John Blackwell?
yeah.
And to put up a performance like that just shows a lot about who he is as a person.
But I think he had 5 points against Oregon. Like, it was not a good game for him,
No, it was
and
bad.
it's not like Crowell necessarily helped, in the final 6 minutes, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think some of his, he just looked a little more sluggish, and so it was pretty cool to see him do that. Um, I think for me, if there's like a first half MVP, is for sure John Blackwell. I think the second half MVP is Kamari McGee. And I think, and here's why, because I think at one point, right, it's not like it's getting close, right? It's not getting down to 10 points or anything. But he comes in and he just makes such a difference for the team in the stint that he's in. Um, and you could just tell, like, he was going to be aggressive. He was going to really harass defensively the entire time he was out there. He's like coming off screens super fast, right? I think a moving pick call. He's gotten like 2 or 3 of those the last couple of games. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, you're going to pick Blackwell, which makes total sense. He just had an awesome game. But I think for me, it's what am I saying? Kamari McKee as the number 2. But man, even if you look at like Jack Janicki's stats,
Yeah,
it
he
is,
was really good.
yeah, it was crazy. Like 3 for 4, 1 for 2 from 3, 1 for 2 from the line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 8 points. That's in 19 minutes. Um, Man, it's just exciting to see. It's exciting to see what our bench can do in a game. Yeah, it doesn't matter a ton. It's not crazy. It's not a crazy good team, but they just came to play. And that was cool to see. For you, what's the turning point?
To me, there was a sequence earlier in the game. I was just kind of looking at it. So we're up 20-15 with 10 minutes remaining in the first half. And here's the sequence. Um, Washington misses a layup, Blackwell rebound. Then we miss a shot. Washington misses a shot, Blackwell rebound. Then Blackwell hits a layup. Washington misses a three, and then Blackwell comes down, gets a three. Washington misses a shot, Blackwell gets another rebound. I mean, that sequence, we went up 27-15 in that sequence. But just like that was Blackwell pure domination on both ends of the court, scoring 5 points and getting 3 rebounds in like a minute and a half worth of time. It was sick. And like that's when you could tell like this is John Blackwell's night. And 19 points in the first half is pretty wild. So that sequence to me separated the game.
I was gonna say, even just looking at the play by play, the game log, I feel like you're right. That was the turning point because at that point, I don't think they ever got within single digits again, right? Or at least maybe they got to 10. But it was we were in control really from that point. I don't know if I have a necessarily turning point other than that, but what I will say is for whatever reason, Crowell, I think in that first half, I don't think he played that great in the second half. But first half, he was aggressive, and I think on when we have a big man that is on, we are just a very tough team to beat. And I just remember, again, it's kind of a back and forth affair, especially early. He hits this like little 2 foot, this 2 foot shot or 2 point shot off the board at a crazy angle.
Yeah.
When he shot that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's such a weird shot. And then he made it, and it was like he has just seen the court so well. And you can just tell it feels like his decision making 95% of the time now is just so sound in this offense. So yeah, hard to know if there's another turning point other than that John Blackwell sequence. Other than maybe that Kamari McGee going for that steal because that was so awesome. We also saw Baby Guard get in. That felt like a turning point for him. Although he didn't get it.
Hey, I will say anytime we can bring our bench guys in, that's to me a turning point. Like that's a really good thing. I've always been critical though. Like Guard waits longer than usual to like he had Tanji and Blackwell in with like 5 minutes to go in the game. And I'm sitting there screaming like, just get those guys out of this game. And then Tanji got drilled underneath and basically like fell on. And I'm like, no, like this is, you could just see the season flashing before your eyes. It's like, just get these guys out of the game, please.
Who is Ricardo Greppi? Who is that dude?
Yeah, so he's a guy that got really late in this last offseason. He came from Italy and like literally knew nothing about Wisconsin. But so Wisconsin basically signed this guy from they signed somewhere overseas. And he ended up like not being able to get in. And so they pivoted really late and got Ricardo Greppi, who is sort of an interesting player. Like he's big, he's physical. I don't know. He's a true freshman.
Yeah, he looks oafish out there in a way. You watch him and you're like, "What? How are you moving?" Like it's like, but I mean, he's playing that really strong guy for Washington. I don't remember his name, but that guy was like, I mean, I think he was a pretty big force on the boards. He's the one that landed on Tanji, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's the guy that's blocking everything, right?
Yeah, so when Greppi went in, I was like, "Gosh, this guy's just going to dominate him." And no, Greppi like was so good against him. He got like I think 2 or 3 rebounds in the time that he was in.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. True freshman. He played in an offense that was very like the Badgers play over in Italy. So I'm just curious, like if that'll ever translate. He doesn't seem like a great shooter, but he is physical, which we need.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we were able to enter the backyard of Italy and get Ricardo Greppi. That was a pretty genius move. Can you tell us about this kind of real men of genius thing that's coming out recently?
Yeah, tonight we want to recognize the leadership of Mr. Backyard Sports Commissioner. While others see a simple lawn, you see a stadium of dreams. You enforce house rules with an iron fist. No do-overs, no whining, and definitely no just for fun plays. This is serious backyard athletics. You once stopped a game for an official replay review using a Ring doorbell camera. Your scoring system is more complicated than fantasy football, and you still remember that one bad call from 2012. You know the correct PSI of every football, the wind speed that affects the wiffle ball, and the exact location of the invisible end zone. And when the neighbor's kid calls a bad foul, instant ejection, no questions asked. Mr. Backyard Sports Commissioner, because in this yard there is only one referee, and it's you.
You know
Played a
that
lot of. I just want to say we played a lot of in the Smith house. Played a lot of backyard sports, and I can relate to the like invisible end zone line. That's a real thing.
that is a real thing. It's usually some trees, you
Right.
know.
It was trees.
Yeah,
It's
it's always
oh, it's so good.
yeah. For whatever reason, made me think of the Nick Saban commercial where he's like, it's like
Yeah.
his house, the Airbnb. It's very, very, very strict rules, Um, so I think you could only take what, a 2-minute shower. I think that
Yeah,
was
the
it.
2 minute shower.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, speaking of another real man of genius, Coach Greg Gard. I remember at the beginning of the year not feeling great about Greg Gard, and even wondering, hey, if this is another, we make the tournament barely, or we make the tournament but first round exit or second round exit, does Wisconsin make a change? And now, we're sitting in what, I think 11 in the AP poll. If you read any CBS 25-1, I think we're ninth in that poll. We'll talk about Ken Palm in a second, but we're number 7 in that. Is Greg Gard coach of the year
In the nation?
in the nation?
No. Um, I think I would put him 4. The guys I would put ahead of him I would put Bruce Pearl ahead of him. I think what he's done at Auburn, he's got really good players, but just, I mean, they're next level. I would put Rick Pitino ahead of him, and then I would put Dusty May ahead of him just because they came in the Kohl Center and beat them, and they're
Yeah.
probably either going to win or tie for the Big Ten. But I put him in the top 5, and not something I don't think any of us would have expected before the season. I didn't know. I even said I remember early in a podcast when we were ranked in the top 25 when we started the year hot. I said I still don't think we're a top 25 team. Just felt like we were playing well in that moment. We just continued to get better, and obviously, like we're a top 15 team. I think it's pretty safe to say that. So not coach of the year, but the way he's adopted the offense and given up a little bit on the defensive side in order to do that shows maturity and growth. And I think it's a sign of really good things to come when it talks about players wanting to come play in our system. So he doesn't need to win Coach of the Year for me to realize this program's heading in a really, really good direction right now.
Well, in this year, it feels like, man, all these players got better, and they were continuing to get better. And I
Yeah.
think we just have not seen that. It feels like you look at a guy like Nate Reavers, who it feels like just got worse and worse, and then going to his 4th or 5th year, it was like, we don't like, I have no trust in you as a player. So to see everybody get better, even more comfortable, and yeah, I think the defense has gotten better throughout the year. And you talked about the rebounding earlier. I mean, they are hitting the boards, I think, with a lot more aggression than they were at the beginning of the year. So it's just cool to see. I think Patino is number 1. That's in my head. Bruce Pearl has good players. I mean, obviously he's been number 1 almost all year there. I mean, that is an achievement, to kind of stay at that level all year. But I think Patino, just what he's doing with St. John's is crazy. But
Yeah, I think he's number 1.
Guard should be top 3 though. Like top 3 or 4. Because I'd even be curious to look at the NIL budgets. I mean, again, I don't even know if these are that public yet, but I got to imagine Guard is not working with, as much as maybe some of these other programs. But yeah, even what Dusty May's doing at Michigan is pretty crazy. So.
Yeah, so I'm just looking, just out of curiosity. So Auburn was preseason ranked number 11. Obviously, St. John's, Wisconsin, Michigan were not ranked. So, yeah, you could make that argument. I think Patino is the answer, and they won again tonight. Kind of this weird trap game at Butler. So, like, they're for real. I don't know how deep they'll go in the tournament, but man, he gets players to play so dang hard. He's an incredible coach.
Yeah, that they played like some kind of halftime speech. I don't know who they were playing. I don't know if you've seen that. You should go look it up. But like, he in essence talks about adversity. He throws a few F-bombs out there, but it was like, oh man, like that fired me up. You know what I mean? And like, we need more of that too. Like, yeah, a bad play happened. Are you just gonna hang your head? Like, what are you doing? Play defense.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Did you see that quote? Just one more thing that Patino said. I think he was on one of the Barstool, whatever they call it, the Barstool podcast, and he basically said last week that they're not even looking at recruiting high school players. Like he's like,
wow,
we're just going after players in the portal because that's you win with older players essentially.
wow,
So that's going to be his model, and I actually agree with that.
yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of great freshmen on these top teams. I think there's like the anomalies, like Cooper Flagg and Jabari Room. Like they're really good, but like freshmen don't start on teams in the top 10 anymore. So it's an interesting thing. It's kind of cool,
Well,
but I worry
look
about
what
those high school players.
totally. I mean, look what Louisville did.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
wonder if this is where the NIL contracts come in. Where it is 2 or 3 years.
I hope so.
And maybe you even cap how many times you can move. Like maybe you can only move one time, or I don't know. I don't know how that's all gonna go down. But I mean, look at Louisville, and even look at Wisconsin getting Tanji. I mean,
Right?
6 year player. Granted, I mean he's completely taken off this year, but yeah, it's crazy what these older players are doing. And man, if you have a young team that's good, I think of these like Kentucky teams of the past. Yeah, you would want to get some veterans around there that are also quality because that'll raise up the
Yeah,
level of the team.
right.
So that's interesting. We wanted to talk about just Ken Palm, right? Because just read an article. They're ranked number 7, and I asked Chris before the podcast. I was like, "What is Ken Palm? Like what is this about?" In essence, it's this guy named Ken Pomeroy who created this metric, and it's a possession by possession metric. Um, and I guess one of the best offensive Ken Palm teams of all time is the 2015 Wisconsin Badger team that went to the national title game, um, and so yeah, it's just a cool stat to look at. But just reading about the guy, he in essence, if you understand baseball at all, Bill James is the one that like started really writing about analytics, and this is like in the 80s and 90s before this was even a thing. And it was Billy Bean, I think, who had like originally read this book and went all in on analytics, and he was really the one that kind of changed baseball. But Ken Pomeroy worked with Bill James in kind of going through this or figuring out this metric, and Bill James is like credited with helping him do that. And so it's just kind of interesting. I mean, Chris, does this mean anything to you? Do you think like people doing the seeding, do they look at this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think they do. I think Ken Palm and the net are kind of the two things that people look at the most. And I like metrics that take a lot of things into account. Like I think
Yeah.
I like it better. Like I think the eye test still matters to a degree, um, but I think the metrics really like tell you more about a player or about a team. So yeah, I like it, and I like for us nerds, like it's just cool things to look at. And there's this really interesting stat out there of like the last like 7 national champions have been I'm not going to try to remember it offhand, but they've been like top 10 in Ken Palm offensive efficiency and top 40 in defensive efficiency. So like you can really like if you're betting or like filling out a bracket, like there's a lot you can take from Ken Palm to help kind of like navigate your way through that.
Yeah, I think it's the last 9 national title winners.
Yeah.
And I think the defensive efficiency, maybe it was number 40. I feel like I read it was like number 20, but maybe you might be right. Which yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah, that you can use these things to help you in the betting, especially, or just filling out your bracket. All right, so we play Michigan State Sunday game. CBS should be, CBS Sunday games are always super fun.
It's the best.
Um, it really is. Michigan State beat Maryland at Maryland on a 3-point half court shot tonight, which is awesome. Love that for them. Um, and if you look at their like past 4 wins, it's pretty crazy. It's like at Illinois, Purdue, that was at home, at Maryland, and then there was one more big game. Oh, at Michigan. So they've in essence had a pretty huge 4-game sequence here. We both said last pod that we think we probably go into that place and lose. Are you changing that prediction, or are you feeling like pretty? Yeah, feeling kind of the same on it.
I mean, I think it's gonna be a close game. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we've won our last 3 times we've went to the Breslin Center. Uh, and I don't know if any other team's done that in the Izzo era, but there's no way anyone's ever done that 4 times. Um, I think we can beat them. I mean, if you watch them, like offensively, they're not that great of a
No,
team.
no.
Um, but defensively, they lock in really well. They rebound. They get on the offensive glass. Like they do a lot of things. We could potentially get exposed in our front court a little bit, but it's just going to come down to how well we shoot the three. The last couple of games we haven't shot that well from deep. So if we can get hot early from the arc, there's no reason we can't win the game. Um, I think it'll be close. I don't think we get blown out. But that's going to be a tough environment on a Sunday when Michigan State, I mean, honestly, they're playing for a Big Ten title and we're not. So there's going to be that little added motivation for them. So I'll say we lose a close one, but I think it's going to be a great game. I can't wait.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that we come out flat. And even, I don't know what I think the Big Ten standings, are we a game and a half back? I think we're number 3, right?
Yeah, we're
Now
tied
behind,
for third.
tied for
Oh
third.
yeah, maybe we're are we are alone in third with Maryland losing?
Yeah, I think we are actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So we still have a shot at it. I think we're not going to be intimidated going in there. Yeah, it's a long shot, no doubt. I don't think we're going to be intimidated going in there, but I think you're right. I think we have to shoot better from a little bit better from 3 than what we've been doing. But yeah, man, I mean, these are 2 hot teams who are both very good, kind of in different ways. Should be good. I'm gonna keep my same prediction. I do think we lose there. It's probably a close game. Would it shock me if we won though? No.
I
And
I think if we win, I'd like to hear your thoughts. If we win, I think we have a realistic shot for it to be a 2 seed. Like I think this game kind of tells where we fall, whether it's a 2 or a 3.
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, especially if you, again, look at all these rankings. We're definitely, like you said, top 15 in the nation, but we could be top 10, and at that point, anything's game. I don't even know if the Big Ten tournament matters. I mean, we'll talk about this in future episodes of this, but I'm not even sure if that really matters, especially because our Big Ten tournament's so late, and now there's so many teams too. So like,
Yeah,
um, it'll
I, I
it'll just be interesting how it plays.
I think as long as we beat Minnesota and Penn State, like we are going to be a 3 seed. But like I
Yeah,
said, if we beat Michigan State, that's what could tip the scales to be a 2.
yeah,
So as long as we don't stub our toe, I think we're in a really good position.
yeah. Do we? So if we beat Michigan State, we wouldn't be tied with them, right, in the Big
No,
Ten?
we'd still be a game behind them and Michigan.
Okay, but
Um,
Michigan has a pretty tough schedule still, right?
They do, but Michigan State really doesn't. They would just go at Iowa, which they should win, and then they're home against Michigan. So they would need to lose one
Okay.
of those two. Michigan, yeah, they have a pretty tricky schedule. They have Rutgers at home, so that's easy. But then they got home against Illinois, home against Maryland, at Michigan State. I mean, it's a
Yeah, it's
gauntlet to end
tough.
the year.
That is tough. And I think that Illinois game is sneaky. I know they haven't been playing as well. But they're also sick, or
Yeah,
injured.
they looked a ton better. What was it, last night or 2 nights ago? Played a lot
Well,
better.
against Duke, they got destroyed. But I, I
Yeah, but
think they could.
they beat Iowa by 20 last night. I mean, but they looked really good. They were up by consistently that much.
Yeah, that's right. That's a kind of a weird game, right? Because Michigan's been pretty efficient, but even if you look at their team, they have those like 2 7-foot guys. Outside of that, nothing like crazy consistent, at least that I've noticed.
Yeah, they only played 6 guys last night. So that's going to be a problem for them too.
Man, that's crazy. Um, all right, just to close, have you thought about going to the game on Sunday?
Yes, I did think about it, but the answer is a hard no. We have our fantasy baseball draft on Saturday. Um,
Yes,
and I believe Matt Smith and Hayden Silvers are staying over. So it's going to be a late night. And there's no way we're driving to Michigan for a 12:30 game. So the answer is no, but I'm going to listen to probably Raftery, and I'm assuming Iron Eagle. I don't
probably.
know who does the Sunday games, but you get the best commentary on CBS Sunday games. So I'm going to enjoy it from home.
Man, Rafferty, I think is 82, but he still has the same energy, man.
Still brings it.
Yeah, he's like the Pete Carroll of broadcasting. Hey, you can find us on X. You can find us on a little bit. Yeah, thank you, Elon. Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify Podcast, YouTube, but no video. Still lacking the video. Thank you for listening. We will continue to do these reaction shows. We're really enjoying it. NFL is coming up, so we'll probably do a Packers one pretty soon. We have some free agency, that kind of stuff going on. If you're reading any headlines, you'll see it. But
Cubs preview coming up too.
Yes. But stay tuned for all Man related podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.
Go Bucky.